Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to those of you who've been following since season one. Thank you so much for all your support and your comments. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to be back. Welcome to season two of Let's Talk with Tammy, brought to you by BKNI Resources. BKNI Resources is a comprehensive consulting company in working with individuals, businesses, schools, government, and organizations. They have 10-year-long track record in conducting seminars, workshop, and individual services on personal branding and appearances. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this show usually features interesting personalities from all walks of life, sharing profound insights into relevant topics. I'm Tammy, your host, and my basis for the show has always been sharing with you my personal journey to learn about anything that piques my interest or curiosity. So let's not waste time any longer. Allow me to introduce my guest of the evening, Natasha Gideon. Hi, Natasha.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Tammy. Such an honor.
So, a little bit about Natasha. She's a licensed real estate negotiator with 6 years' experience in the industry. And over these years, she has helped over 1,000 clients and to basically to find their real estate assets through her consultation. And she has been awarded as among the top 10 agents of the first quarter of 2021 with 6 million ringgit in sales in the first 6 months. So before I drill Natasha with questions, for those of you who are currently watching the live session, feel free to comment or send in your questions, and your questions will be addressed by the end of the show. So I think I want to start my first question about your personal journey in becoming real estate negotiator. Was it something that you have always been interested in, or is it something that just happened to fall into this career?
No, I think a lot of negotiators they start out being totally from a totally different background, and so I'm
Mhm.
in that category as well. I actually studied for 7 years in more of a science background, so I did biomolecular sciences.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
I tried to do my masters in biotechnology and agriculture, and I eventually I realized I'm very much a people person. So every day I was going to the lab, and I was like, okay, like, I
Mm.
cannot do this anymore. So I got a job. Fast forward a few years, I got a job as a property journalist because I
Okay.
do like writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so by chance I found out that wow, property is actually very interesting for all the
Okay.
stakeholders involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, maybe I should go into the sales part of it because I'm looking at all these agents around me and they're making a lot of money.
Okay.
So I really thought like, wow, I'm gonna be this like rich agent.
I mean, money is a really good motivator.
It is. So I tried it. It was a tough few first years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but eventually I got the groove of it. So yeah, and I really like it. I think that's why I never stopped.
Okay.
So yeah, sixth year now.
Okay. So do you think you have found your calling?
I have indeed, yes.
Okay. Okay. So how did you do that? That transfer, that switch? What did you have to do to become like a licensed real estate negotiator?
So it's actually quite simple. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it or not, because
Mm-hmm.
you only need to have a SPM qualifications to join the course. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go through the board of valuers, um, uh, valuers, estate agents, and appraisers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bovea, and you pay like 600 ringgit for your license, and that is valid
Mm-hmm.
year for a year. And then every year you just renew it with 200 ringgit, and
Yeah.
you just go through the courses every year and just refresh your memory.
Mm.
So basically, from that background that I explained just now, coming into this, I just took my license and studied everything from zero, and had to very it was very hard to find my groove lah, but basically that's about it. You just need to go through the 2 day license talk, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is put on hold for now because they only allow you to take it physically.
Physically. Okay. No virtual sessions.
yeah, I think because it's an industry that handles a lot of money per transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to like simply, or because if you go online, you're not focusing,
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's the point of it. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's basically the process.
Okay. Okay. So I think I'll go right into the first question. So
Yep.
I think the first question anyone would think about is like, am I ready? Can I finally afford a home now? Okay, this is for people who have been thinking about buying their first house. Obviously, the
Yeah.
first step is always the most difficult to make that big
Yeah.
leap.
Yeah.
So how can someone be sure that they are now ready and can afford to buy a home?
So, for me, the thought process is very data driven.
Mm,
You have to go to your drawing board and like check out, okay, how long do I want to stay in this area per se? So let's say, for example, I'm not a fan of renting because
right.
I've been renting with my mom my whole life before I got married, and it's very difficult because the owners decide when you stay and when you leave. So I really didn't like that. I really didn't like that sense of not having something on my name, not knowing if this is the last year I'm going to be in this area, things like that.
Right.
So the
Right.
first thing you need to do is figure out the location of where you want to move to. Is that a location that you want to stay less than 2 years or more than that? So anything more than like I want to say more than like 4 or 5 years and above, if you want to stay in that specific location, then it's better to purchase rather
Mm,
than pay for someone else's asset, right?
right.
So that would be the first decision. Like, should I
Mm,
rent or should I buy, right? And then once you have that light bulb and you're like, okay, I think it's time to purchase. Now go back to your finances, look at what you can afford
mm,
at the moment. So, of course, the first thing you want to see is, okay, am I going to be financially stable for the next um, few years, right?
right.
That you're going to service the loan,
Mm,
at least for the next 5 years. You need to be able to service the loan. Secondly, you need to take a look at what your spending is like. And my rule of thumb, this is a personal rule of thumb. I put
mm,
aside 30 to 40% of my net income for property.
right.
Um, I think other people would probably say 30%, but I think
Mm,
in this day and age, you need to increase the property side a bit more and
mm,
maybe reduce on the other expenses. So, for example, what I usually tell my clients is, if you're new and you're young and you want to purchase a property, make sure that your first purchase, which is usually your car,
mm,
make sure that that's not too much. That doesn't
mm,
take too much of your, we call it a debt service ratio, DSR.
right. Right.
Because a lot of the problems is your gaji is able to get you like a 400, 500,000 property, but because your car is already at 900, that
Right.
takes up a
Right.
lot of the debt service ratio. Yeah, so you want
Mm,
to maximize on the property part, 30% to 40%.
right.
And that, I think, is a comfortable number.
Okay.
um, yeah, so that, I think, with that, knowing that you only spend 30 to 40% and you have the rest to set aside for savings, and
Mm-hmm.
for rainy days, I think that can give you a bit more confidence.
Mm-mm. Is that all that we need to think about? Is that whether we have decided whether we want to rent or to buy, and then the finances.
Between the two, yes. I think that's number one, because
Mm-hmm.
I'll go into like the other details deeper later. But I think the first few steps would be to decide on whether you want to buy or not, and whether you can afford it or not.
I think that's the most important part, right? Before we move
Most
on to the next
important.
step. Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
important. I think a lot of people nowadays are very skewed into purchasing because, oh, my friends are already buying, so I have to buy.
Right.
Or my
Mm,
parents said, I'm getting married soon, so I have to have a home. You have to
right.
have a home, but you don't have to buy it first. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's my advice.
It's a very common societal expectation to to first get a house and then to first get a car and then you have to get a home. That's like the next
Mm.
basic. It's something that you don't even think about. That's the next thing you need to do.
Yeah. Very autopilot.
Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more people starting to join. So let me just repeat. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to drop it in the comments, and I would be able to answer your questions. And she would be able to answer your questions, right? Okay. Okay. So that's the first part, deciding whether I want to buy or rent, and then decide whether I'm financially viable for that. And then would be what would be the next part? Like, what would be the things that I need to take? What are the steps? What are the concrete steps I will need to take once I've decided, okay, it's time now for me to get a house?
Okay, so um, I would advise you to firstly get your loan eligibility checked.
Mm,
So you I what I usually use is actually the CITOS loan eligibility checker.
right.
Um, and so you put in your net income, you
Mm,
put in what commitments you have at the moment, and then you calculate for 3% interest. And if you're younger than 35 years old, you put 35-year tenure. If you're older than 35 years old, you put in the number 70 minus your age, and that will be a tenure basically. And you will find, okay,
okay.
this is what I'm eligible for. So for
Mm,
example, if you put in your gaji is 5,000 net, that's after EPF and SOXO, and then
mm,
you have a car commitment 500, for example, so you have a balance of 4,500.
right.
um, Banks will take 70% of your income to which is what we call the DSR, the debt service ratio, and from that
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
70% is the total amount of what you can borrow. So that
Okay.
includes the car loan that you have as well. So
Right.
from that you
Right.
just minus, and you'll have a chunk of money there. That's what you can
Mm-hmm.
still borrow from the bank, right? So you can
Right.
either choose to maximize that, or use anything lower than that. So they'll give you a
Mm,
figure. They'll tell you like, okay, you can purchase something up to 600,000, for example. So now you
okay.
have that number in mind, right? You have that
Mm-hmm.
number in mind, and you can think, okay, maybe I'll look for something between 500 to 600 lah, right? Because
Okay.
it might be difficult to look for something within the areas that you want to look at.
Right.
So now what you want to do is you want to look at the location. Where
Mm,
are you comfortable in buying? Okay, so this is, I think, a mistake that a lot of people make, especially for own stay. I'll talk about own stay first lah.
mm,
Buying in a location that you're not familiar with, um, it's I would suggest that you try and live in the area first before buying, so that you're used to traveling to work, so that you're used to the people in the area, the amenities, etc. So that
right.
if you change your mind and you don't like it, 2 years down the road, you're not like, okay, I need to sell this house, right?
Mm,
If you're renting, you can just be like, oh, okay, it's okay. I'll just find somewhere else to rent, and then
mm,
finally purchase where I'm comfortable with. So
right.
really make sure that you are aware of your location and
Mm,
surroundings before
mm-hmm.
you make a purchase. If you're
Okay.
buying for investment,
Mm-hmm.
location wise, it doesn't have to be something that you have to be comfortable with, but you need to know who your target market is.
Mm,
So if you're looking at investing and renting out to young professionals, then you probably want to look at areas that are close to public transport, or more areas that have more offices in the area.
mm,
For example, like Cyberjaya has a lot of offices. It's like Silicon Valley of Malaysia, right? So that would be a
mm,
great place. Or like Bangsar South, a lot of
mm,
MSc status offices in the area. So that would be a good location. Um, so it's more on the data and analytics of like who you want to rent out to, right?
mm, mm.
So for own stay, location is for yourself, it's also for your future. So for example, you want to live there for 10 years or 20 years. Of course, you want to look at things like, okay, what are the good schools in the area in
Okay.
case you want to have a family, right?
Mm,
If you want to have a family, you definitely need to know what the schools are in the area, how good they are, etc. Hospitals, what's the nearby hospitals, and things like that, right? So in terms of location, LRT, and amenities, it's different based on what the point of your purchase is, own stay
okay.
or investment. And
Mm,
then if you're buying for own stay, another thing that I would highly recommend you do is, even if you don't stay in the area, try to go to work from the area in the morning and come back in the evening. Just try that road in case
mm.
there's more jam than you expect.
Right, right.
Yeah. So for example, my husband and I moved to Setialam 4 years ago, and at the time there was only one access road.
Mm.
And at the time we were working 9 to 5 still. I chose this area because I kind of have a flexible schedule. He kind of has a flexible schedule as well, but on the days that we need to go for like early meetings, it was horrible. It was really
Mm.
horrible. So we almost gave up living here at the time.
Okay.
So try and do that before you're purchasing. Let's say you found a place and you're okay. Try and take that route to work in the morning and come back,
Mm.
just to gauge the time that it takes as well as the cost that it takes. So take that
Mm.
into consideration as well. All right. So the next thing that you want to look at is also value. What's the
Mhm.
value that this location can give you?
Okay.
I think even if you're buying for own stay, it can still be an investment. It's still an asset that you can hold on to and resell in the future. Let's say 10 years, 20 years down the road, right? Or 30
Right.
years down the road. So you want to look at locations that um, looks like it has good potential, you know.
Mm.
Um, this one I think would need a little bit more research, but I think if you approach a negotiator or an agent, they would be
Mm.
happy to explain to you the values and things like that. So yeah, once you take all that into consideration, especially the part about cost and time taken to go to work,
Mm.
you have to put that into the cost of the property. For
Right.
example, just taking myself as an example,
Mm.
living here, it costs me probably mm, more than 500 a month to travel.
Right.
So I'm taking into consideration as well the wear and tear of my car because I travel
Mm.
60 kilometers a day, 30 kilometers
Wow.
to KL, 30 kilometers to PJ, and 30 kilometers back. So that's wear and tear, that's petrol, that's toll. The extra
Mm.
500, if I top up and if I'm paying 1,500 for my house and I top up 500, that which is 2,000 for my house budget, I can stay closer to PJ for
Right.
2,000 and I can get to work faster. The wear and tear
Yeah.
is less. There's no toll and things like that. So
Yeah.
you want to look at these things as well, not just I want to pay 1,500 for my house and that's it. I don't want to look at any other
Right.
options,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very
So
nice.
yeah. So those are the things that I would definitely ask you to take a look at
Mm.
before you go on to looking at the properties and purchasing those properties. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay.
Hmm.
What about like for example, will there be any difference if you are going to buy some a unit that like the development has not even started, things like that, or a subsale unit?
Yeah.
Will there be any difference?
Definitely the pros and cons to
Mm.
new development and subsale. Both have their pros and cons.
Right.
For me, buying subsale is something that's more tangible. You can go and look at the unit. You can check out who your neighbors are. What's the safety features in the area? What's the amenities like? You can go to the ground and ask people like how is it living here? You can get to
Mm.
your neighbors. Different for new developments. You don't really know how it's going to turn out. You can
Right.
only base it on your research, but
Mm.
it's brand new, so there's not much that you need to do in terms of a subsale unit, right? And the most glaring difference is subsale would require more money. Entry level would be more money, so you have to put in a 10% down payment. You have to put in pay for your legal fees, valuation. As
Mm.
opposed to new developments, a lot of the developments are um, sometimes zero down payment. If they're under the
Right.
HOC home ownership campaign, you don't even have
Mm.
to pay for the legal fees. It's
Mm.
basically just like pay a booking and okay, I have a house, right?
Right.
But you don't
Right.
know if that's okay. What if it doesn't come out to like what I was expecting? So there are
Mm.
risks to both. It really
Mhm.
depends on. I think for subsale and new development is really based on like how much money you have at the moment.
Right. Okay, this is a
Yeah.
new question, and I'm not sure if it's still being done right now in the pandemic for the past 2 years. But even for new developments where development have not even started, right? Will there be like a show unit, or is it not compulsory for them to have show unit, or do developers have a show unit where you can walk in and see, okay, this is how my house going to look like in the future in 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah. So um, show units are definitely a big help in selling. So developers would definitely want to make show units. But in the event that there are too many types. Maybe sometimes they will only do like
Um,
two or three out of the four types of show units, for example.
right, right, right.
And then what is most similar, they won't do a double lah. So they'll just be like, okay,
Mhm.
so here you just imagine there's extra space here. Or for example, here you just imagine this is slightly smaller and
Okay,
things like that.
okay. Mm.
Um, so definitely, yes. Most of these new developments will have show galleries. That's also
Right.
how we take pictures and we advertise for that. But
Mm.
also now a lot of developers are using virtual tours as well, which has
Okay.
helped a lot during the pandemic. So I just show
Mm.
people like the virtual tour, and
Mhm.
yeah, that helps a lot.
Okay, okay. Anything else apart from the unit, like, some of the things that you may have seen people making common mistakes. They might choose the unit based on emotional needs, not
Hmm.
thinking practicality about it, like, whether there needs to be a balcony or not.
Oh.
Maybe the amenities in that unit or in that
Ah.
apartment.
I think those are very individualistic. It depends on the individual. I I myself do not like balconies at the
Oh,
moment. My
right.
house does not have a balcony. I have a
Okay.
yard at the back. Most apartments now have yards because just fun fact, under the Strata Title Act 2015, you can't sidai baju on your balcony because you don't
Right.
want to make the facade look like
Yeah.
not nice. So
Okay.
every apartment should have a yard, and so that's the
Okay.
open space that I go to. But I
Okay.
don't have a balcony because I prefer a longer hall. And
Mm,
my previous houses, we never really used the balcony, and it just ended up becoming grimy. So
mm,
I'm not a balcony person per se.
right.
So that is really dependent on what the that person likes. Some
Mm,
people like balconies because that's where they want to grow their plants.
mm,
Um, because it's nice to just get fresh air at night.
right.
During the pandemic, a lot of my clients were like, okay, I think in the future I need a balcony in case anything like this happens again. It's just
Mm,
nice to like go outside.
right.
So that's very, very based on what the couple likes and doesn't like. I do
Right.
have clients who specifically request for no balcony because of kids or pets, and
Right.
it's understandable. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
amenities, pun sama,
Mm-hmm.
I am not. I'm not sure if everyone really uses their amenities to the best that they can. I think if you ask any person in a condo, like especially if they don't have kids, like how many times have you really gone to the swimming pool and how many times have you really used the gym?
Mm-hmm.
It's not widely used.
Right.
But if you're into all that,
Mm,
then of course your plus points will be for projects that have all these like really nice amenities, right? So
right.
it's not
Mm,
a is I think for a lot of people it's not a deal breaker, but it's
mm,
really nice to have. And I think a lot of developers want to sell their projects now, so they do make like really nice facilities for buyers.
mm, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. Would that affect the price of the unit? Let's say, for
Mm,
example, you have two developments, but it's the same area, but obviously the whole one of it comes with all these amenities, gym, swimming pool, and the
probably
other
the
does not.
probably the price of the unit would not be affected, but probably the price of the maintenance would be slightly higher.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
So that's like out of that
Yeah, that's
box of
monthly
them.
payment lah. Mm.
Okay. I think
Yep.
one more thing is, what if people are interested to just, because we were talking about how when you are looking to buy a unit, we're already thinking in the future, like, oh, okay, I might want to get a three
Yeah.
bedroom house because, I foresee myself starting a family and things like that.
Yeah.
But what if people want to just have a starter home for now
Hmm.
and then later on, switch? So
Yeah.
would any of this thought process change?
Um, no, I don't think so. It's just a matter of the size of the unit that you're looking at. If you think
Hmm.
that 3 or 4 bedrooms is too much, you can look at something
Yeah.
that's something that's a two-bedder. Not everyone is going to stay in their first homes forever.
Yeah.
So it's possible that when you get your keys, you're still by yourself. Um, and so you don't need the big space. You probably just want to
Mm.
buy a studio or a one-bedder or a two-bedder. So
Mm.
it's just a matter of, okay, now I have to look for something that's 2 bedrooms. It'll
Right.
probably be easier to narrow that down. But other than that, everything else should be about the same. Um, yeah, everything else should be about the same.
Okay. So what if people are just looking for a studio apartment? Do you think that's a good investment? Is it?
It depends on the area. It depends on
Mm,
the area. Because if you're buying a studio apartment, I'm assuming in the next 10 years, you would want to move to something bigger,
right.
right? So let's say you bought at 25. By the time you're 35, maybe you want some more space. Doesn't necessarily mean you want to get married or whatever, but I want to invite more people over. You can't
Yeah.
just invite people to your bachelor pad forever, right? So
Correct.
you want to make sure that okay, in the next 10 years, in this location where I'm buying this studio, will I
Mm-hmm.
be able to rent it out for at least 70% of the mortgage that I'm paying?
Mm,
So that would be your thought process in making that purchase,
right.
and then you just follow what I mentioned earlier in terms of those buying for investment.
Mm-hmm.
What are the amenities close by? Are there offices, or if there's no offices, is it close to is it close to public transport? If it's not close to public transport, is there a feeder bus that comes through? Things like that,
Mm,
basically. Yeah.
okay. All right. So when it comes to cost, so people just look at that price and then they start away starting to calculate their monthly installment plan. And okay, this is the house that I'm going to purchase. This will be the amount of money that I'm going to put aside. And earlier you brought up a very important point that sometimes you also have to consider your travel expenses. That's also part,
Mm,
and it's due to your house that you are spending that much because
yeah.
depending on where you're staying and whatnot. What
Yeah.
other hidden costs that one has to be aware of while purchasing?
I think the bulk of the costs that you need to be aware of are the legal fees that go into purchasing a property.
Mm,
So as soon as you're purchasing, whether it's new development, whether it's subsale, but subsale especially, you have to look
mm,
at your loan disbursement fee, loan
okay.
stamping, your SPA stamping, your SP. It's just a whole lot of different legal fees that you have to pay for, and stamping is basically stamping also costs quite a lot, which is the memorandum of transfer
Mm-hmm.
that HOC gives for free right now.
Okay.
So it can go up to one 1 to 2% of the purchase price, just
Right.
as a to be safe lah. If you're buying a property below 500,000, it's like 2% of the purchase price.
Mm,
So you're looking at 10,000 if you're buying a 500,000 property, right?
mm,
So that's just for one, and then for the rest of the legal fees mostly are based on percentages as well. So legal
right.
fees usually I calculate it's 3% of the selling price that you're purchasing at. So if your
Mm-hmm.
property is 500,000, 3%
Mm-hmm.
of that, 3 times 5 is 15. Is that
Mm-hmm.
15,000? Yeah. So about
Yeah.
15,000 or
Mm,
so just for the legal fees,
right.
plus your down payment of 10%, which is 50,000. So you're looking at 65,000 for a 500,000 ringgit property.
Right.
And of course, you can take out from your EPF account doer, but then there's no money left for the other hidden costs like remodeling your home.
Right.
Um, if you're buying a subsale property, you want to do repainting. Sometimes people redo the piping. You
Mm,
wanna make your home as nice as possible, right? And if you're
right.
buying a brand new property, you have to put in the furniture, you have to put in the lights and whatever.
Mm,
Um, I think very rarely do developers give you like a chunk of furniture and
that's true.
electrical items, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot. It's a lot to pay for. Kitchen cabinets alone are like 10,000, and that's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
you need to there's something that you need a kitchen cabinet so that
Yeah.
you spend more time at home cooking. Like you spend so much on the house, takkan you not go out some more, right? So yeah,
Right.
you wanna spend most of the money on your home. So a
Mm,
lot of the costs are basically as you move in, and then when you're living in the property, of course you have your maintenance fees and sinking fund. So just make sure that when you ask your developer, the salesperson, um, the maintenance fees, is it including of sinking fund or not? Sinking fund
mm,
is usually 10% of the maintenance fees. So, for example, if your maintenance fees is 35 cents, sinking fund
mm.
would be 0.35 cents, right? So, um, yeah, so that would be about 0.38 cents, right? So that would be for everything. And then you times that with your the size of your property. So let's say it's 1,000 square feet, that's 360 ringgit per month,
Mm,
for both. And then you have your for for landed property, we call it cukai tanah. You have to
Mm.
pay tax, and then if it's a condo, you call it cukai petak. And
Okay.
these are biannual, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You have to pay. How you pay, I'm not really sure, because that you have to go deep into like different types of properties as well. But that's a
Mm.
hidden cost.
Right.
And then you also have assessment tax. So your quit rent and assessment tax are all for taken up by the Majlis Perbandaran in your area for like maintenance of the public infrastructures, kutip sampah, cuci all the longkangs in the area, those things like that.
Mm.
So these are things that come in the mail every 6 months or so. So
Okay.
they'll be alarmed, but these are just extra things that you need to pay for lah. It's like having a car lah, basically.
Mm.
Um, every year or so, you have to pay for your insurance, you have to pay for your road tax, you have to
Mm.
go for servicing. So it's same as a house as well. Your monthly repayment is not just your monthly repayment. There's other things that goes into that as well. And then, like I
Right.
mentioned lah, the extra that you pay to travel. Yeah. So those are some of the hidden costs that I think
Mm.
are included, that maybe a lot of people don't really
Yeah.
take into consideration.
Because they straight away look at the cost and I'm like, okay, I think I can manage that. And then
Hmm.
they don't realize that there's so many other things. And some
Yeah.
of the things involved, that some of the things that you mentioned was like some of you would have to probably pay in the long run or maybe every month. But even the upfront amount is not
Mm.
just 10% down payment. There's so many other things like the legal fees and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
basically, before you want to buy a house, what percentage of the house cost would you need to have?
I would advise you to have a comfortable 15% saved
15%.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
15% uh includes, I mean, if you have money in your EPF account dua, then that's included lah. So basically,
Mm,
part of your savings as well.
mm.
And if that's not enough, then of course you need to cushion somewhere, somehow, some other savings as well. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So
Mm.
15% to
Mm.
cover the down payment, to cover the legal fees, all the other
Exactly.
etc. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the event that you don't have that amount,
Mm.
I do suggest that you try to look at new developments,
Okay.
and because you do save a lot from that. I have
Mm.
I personally purchased a new development. My husband purchased a subsale property, only because we really liked the property and we were too late in purchasing. We spent a lot on the down payment and the legal fees for the subsale property,
Mhm.
and for my property, I only paid the MOT and the booking. So altogether was only about 3,500. But for this
Right.
house, we paid close to 45,000.
Mm. Wow, that's a
And
lot of
then,
difference.
yeah, and I was telling you yesterday that chunk of money went towards the down payment and the legal fees. So we never really got around to furnishing the house properly. And so we're
Mm.
only doing it now 4 years later.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's a educational journey for us, but it's an expensive journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on how much money you have as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
So speaking about paying, so how do we know we are not overpaying for a
Mm.
unit? How do we know? How do we gauge the market value?
Okay, so for subsale properties, it's easy
Mm-hmm.
because you have data from NAPIC. It's a government body that basically has all the data for all the transacted properties in the
Okay.
whole of Malaysia. In the whole of Malaysia, yeah.
Right.
So you just go to bricks.my, brickz.my, and you
Mm-hmm.
just type in the name of the property that you want to purchase in. So, for example, let's say you live in Ampang, Menara Polo, for example. Okay, just type in Menara Polo. You wait for the list of names to come out, and you click on the one that is yours lah. So Menara Polo
Mm.
residential condo, for example. You click on that, and it will show you the past transactions for the last year or so. All right.
Right.
So from there, you will be able to see it only comes out. biannually. So for this year, probably belum lagi lah. So you'll probably be seeing 2020 prices, but that's good
Okay.
enough. So you look at 2020 prices, and they will show you the median price, the what's the highest it's sold for, and things like that. You can also see the price per square foot, so you can kind of gauge. Okay, am I paying above market value? Am I just paying like asking price?
Mm.
And then you decide lah whether you are okay with paying asking price, or if you want to ask for something lower than that, or if that's possible. What's the lowest price that is sold for, right? For
Okay.
that's for subsale. Subsale is easier
Mm.
because it's already there. For new
Yeah, yeah.
development, I would suggest that you look in the areas surrounding. So,
Mm.
for example, what I usually advise my clients, I'm selling in Damsra Perdana, which is a block, like an area that is currently empty, right?
Mm.
So it's part of Damsra Perdana, but it's not really. There's no other properties there yet.
Okay.
So what I do is I look at the properties within Damansara Perdana that is already built. So I
Okay.
look at um, similar sizes. I look at similar bedrooms and things like that, and
Mm.
kind of calculate, okay, which one will be the closest concept to what I'm selling,
Right.
right? So I'm selling a service apartment. So I look at the service apartments with 3 bedrooms, for example. Okay, what are the
Mm.
prices for this? Okay,
Okay.
so it's about the same price. So if it's about the
Mm.
same price, that's fine because I'm selling a property that will be ready in the future, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I'm buying a property that you will get in 2024, but you're buying it at 2021 punya price.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Quite appreciate it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I do look at that, but make sure
Mm.
you don't compare something that's like apple to orange. You don't compare to like low cost. You don't compare to something that's really old, which is not a service apartment, things like that. Like, you have
Mm.
to look at what is most similar to the project that you want to buy.
Mm.
Does that answer the question?
Yep, yep, definitely.
Okay.
Okay. So a lot of things, right? Based on because obviously it involves a lot of information seeking, um, talking to a lot of people. So when it comes to buying property,
Mm.
what are the different channels? Like some people that I know, they just went around to as many showrooms as possible, and then they decide on their own by looking at the pamphlets, by talking at the salesperson at that unit, and
Yep.
things like that. Or you talk to a real estate negotiator.
Mhm.
So, what are the different channels one can seek out when they are looking to buy an apartment or buy a unit?
Um, so it depends on what kind of person you are. I have clients who
Mm.
are very much like, Natasha, I know you handle a lot of projects. This is my budget. This is the location that I want. What's the best? And then I also have clients who are very meticulous and they go through everything themselves and they just come to me for advice.
Okay.
Um, okay, so I know this is for this property. I know this is like, can you tell me what's the market value? Things like that. I think a lot of things like market value and research mostly would be done by negotiators, so they do come to me for those input. But it really depends on what kind of person you are. So if you're very meticulous and you're very like me, I do my own Excel sheet. Okay, what project I'm looking at, how far it is from my workplace, what's the price, what's the tenure, is it important or not, what's the
Mm.
value in the future, things like that. So that one you probably want to go yourself and you probably want to tick all those off your list yourself, right?
Right.
But for those who are probably like very new and you don't really, it's not really your thing to go deep into this research, then
Mm.
if you have the time, definitely go to all these showrooms, not a problem. But if you can find someone that can handle like all the projects, um, like one person handles all the projects for you, I think that would also help you as well.
Okay.
Um, what else? Well, actually, now that the pen like now that we are in lockdown, a lot of people save time by just asking for online consultations, and we do
Mm.
have virtual
Okay.
tours. So you can do your studying now, and then by the time lockdown is over, like, okay, I want to narrow down to these two properties, then you
Mm.
just go to the show unit for those. So yeah, I think there are a few ways to go about it.
Mm.
uh, Depends on what kind of person you are.
Okay. Okay. And like when you're going to real estate negotiator. So obviously we're not paying the real estate negotiator, right? We are being paid by the developers. So
Yes.
how do we make sure that we are on the same page so that the outcome will be beneficial for both of us? Like, I get a house that I want and I like,
Yeah.
and then you get to sell a house as well.
Um, I would advise firstly to just be transparent with your negotiators, because the more information we have, the easier it is for us to kind of plan out the journey, not just in finding your home, but also up until the point where we apply for the loan, so there's no hiccups. Because I
Mm,
have had experiences where um, clients don't want to tell me their financial situation, and by the time when it's time to apply for the loan, suddenly, oh, there's um, arrears in repayments, and so
mm,
it's difficult to get a loan at the interest rate that you want, or it's difficult to get a loan altogether, for example.
right.
So if you just tell us in advance, then we can advise you accordingly, and get stuff sorted. But of course, um, I think it's also important that you um, it's difficult to say that, because you need to have like a good vibe with the agent for both of you to be comfortable with each
Yeah,
other, because it's a
yeah.
very I understand it's a very difficult decision to make. It's like
Mm,
basically the step into like adulting, right? Like,
yeah,
I bought a
yeah.
house. And
Commitment, by the way.
as soon yeah, exactly. So as soon as you meet this negotiator, and as soon as you speak to them, um if you're not comfortable, I think a lot of negotiators probably can be pushy. For example,
Mm,
you just have to tell them like, you're too pushy. I would rather speak to someone else, for example. Or you can
mm,
just speak to someone else. But make sure that the communication is there. Just say, can
mm,
you please not be too pushy. This is a big decision for me.
mm.
I would like to do, this is my plan of action, for example. So I think it's about establishing that comfort, as well as being transparent. So both ways, hopefully the negotiator is also transparent with you as well. Of
Right.
course, the developer pays us, but if we don't conclude the deal for you with you, we don't get
Mhm.
paid either way. So for me, I would try my best to assist my clients the best that I can. Um, and whether jadi ke tak jadi ke, that's basically based on, that's rezeki lah. For me, I fikir rezeki je lah. Like, if I
Right.
can help you find a property, that's great. If I can sell the property to you, that's fantastic. But if the property that you like is not under my guidance, I probably have a friend that can assist you with that. So you know you just have to be open with the negotiator. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. And I think another thing that's probably playing in everybody's mind right now is the current economic conditions.
Mm,
And do you think this is the right time to buy a house? If we can afford it, do you think
mm.
this is the right time to buy?
Yes, definitely. For those who already have the financial standings, the stability, especially,
Mm-hmm.
if you do see yourself being stable in the next few years,
Mm-hmm.
then this is definitely the best time to buy. Number one, because of the low interest rates. These are the lowest interest rates ever, like all time low. I think the base lending rate is like 1.75. It used to be
Right.
like 2 point something, or 3
Yeah.
point something.
Mm,
When I bought property in 2015, my interest rate was 4.5, and now my clients are getting 2.85,
mm,
2.93.
mm.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's like 500 ringgit less that I'm paying now, right? So if you get to the how that affects you is, if 5 years ago you were only eligible for something that's 300,000, because of the
Mhm.
lower interest rates, now if you calculate, you're probably entitled to something that's closer to 450,000,
Okay.
because monthly you jadi lagi rendah, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so you can probably buy something that fits. Sorry, you can probably buy something that is, yeah, bigger value basically, right?
Yeah.
And why that is great, especially for new developments, is you are purchasing for future you.
Mm.
So even if the price increases slightly in the next few years because of the interest rates have increased,
Yeah.
um, of course, in the future, in 5 years' time, you definitely want to work your way up the ladder and get more in income, right?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
at the same time, you already have a property that you can afford, and you know, future you is settled. Like past you has done you a favor already. So that's on the interest rates, really low, lowest of all time. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I think I'm also considering making a purchase, still doing my research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Besides that, there are a lot of campaigns by the Penjana scheme by the government.
Right.
If it's your third property, you can get a 90% loan from banks.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a first time buyer, you don't have to pay for the down payment. You don't have to pay for legal fees. Everything is free.
Mm.
Just look for properties that are under HOC, Home Ownership Campaign.
Right.
You need to sign the SPA, and the SPA needs to be stamped by the 31st of December.
Right. Mm.
So try and if you're planning to buy now, try and do it before December.
Okay.
Um, the earlier the better, because if it's during lockdown, the stamping takes a while as well.
Yeah.
So in order to save all that money, better do it faster lah.
Right.
And there's just a lot of if you're looking to buy subsale, a lot more people are willing to sell off their properties, also because number one, of course, they need the cash, but number two, the real properties gains tax in Malaysia has been under the Penjana scheme, um, has been waived for 3 properties for each owner.
Right.
Meaning,
Okay.
if I have if I have, let's say, 2 properties and I want to let it go, I don't need to pay a tax for my untung, for my profit, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had 3 properties that you can let go, and you don't need to pay tax for, which means
Mm-hmm.
that of course owners are going to be more willing to let go, and more willing to let go at a lower price for
Of
you
course.
as well. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a buyer's market right now. A lot of
Mm.
owners are letting go because they need the money, which also means that it's a very competitive. It's not a competitive market. It's very like, okay, I just want to let go of my property, just take it. So
Okay.
it's a buyer's market. Go around, look at the properties that you wanna purchase. And so yeah, those are all the reasons why it's a great time to purchase if you are ready to purchase.
Right. Okay. Okay. I think I want to move on to some of the questions because I shared our upcoming episode like 2 days back, and I posted a
Mm,
story on Instagram asking like what other questions that you might want to ask. So while I am reading these questions, for those of you who are currently watching the show, if you have any question, please leave it as comments, and I will be able to see your questions. Okay. Right. So I think the first question, I think it's a very interesting question because you may have seen, you have helped 1,000 clients to find their real estate agent, which means you must have seen way more than 1,000 people, right?
yeah.
I think at this point you would be able to kind of gauge how are they and are they wishy-washy? Are they
Mm,
really determined, right? So the
mm,
first
mm.
question is, what are the signs that a person is not ready for a property commitment?
The easiest sign is when they come to me and they're like, "Hi, Natasha, my budget is 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
I want a 3 bedroom apartment."
Oh, okay. Okay.
Extremely vague. Um, they just know, okay, it's time to buy a property. I have the budget. What do I do? Like they're just like, okay, Natasha, help me. So if this is an agent asking, the 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 less details that this person gives you means they've not done enough research for their property
Right.
journey. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're willing to guide them, the first thing you want to do is make sure that they understand, okay, buying subsale, you require 15% down payment. Buying new development, you need to be able to apply for the loan, and loan you mesti lepas lah before I continue assisting you. Because if you just started working for 1 month and I assist you sampai ni, loan tak lepas, you're going to waste your time. You're
Correct.
going to waste everyone's time, the
Yeah.
client's time as well. So
Yeah.
you do want to gauge more on what this person is looking for. It could
Mm.
be that this person is ready to purchase, but they don't know. So you just have to take them through the steps. So I have questions that I ask clients who are not sure. I give it to them, and if they're not sure, I tell them to go and do their research and come back to me when they're
Mm.
done, because I can't propose everything in Klang Valley. I
Yeah,
can't propose everything in Malaysia. It's ridiculous because there's so many there's so many even in one place.
yeah.
What do I do? I can't decide your life for you. you know
Mm.
so those are the one of the signs. The other
Mm.
would be asking for property prices that don't make sense in the locations that they ask for. So like,
Okay.
Natasha, I want a landed property 500,000 in PJ. So those don't exist anymore, by the way. So I know, okay,
Okay.
this person probably doesn't know the property prices.
Mm.
So I'll ask her, is it okay if we look outside of PJ? Um, but definitely locations that are a bit more secluded, like Puncak Alam, maybe
Mm.
Shah Alam, areas like that. If they're not willing to go deeper into these areas, then what if
Right.
we change your budget into something more like a condo, 500,000 condo, 3 bedroom, definitely something that I can help you with, for example.
Right.
So those two are usually my I call them, I don't I mean I call leads lah, call leads. Yeah.
Mm.
You need to put more time into assisting them.
Okay. Okay. But is it possible at this point, right, for somebody? I mean, generally, I would say when it comes to range of prices, Klang Valley property prices are one of the highest in the country.
Mm.
So people who are planning to buy a property in Klang Valley, and what if they are falling in the B40 category, or they're just looking for a family home for like 300K? Is that reasonable or is that impossible already at this point?
Oh, no, no, it's very possible.
Okay.
So uh you do have properties like Rumah WIP, Rumah Wilayah Persekutuan. Those are
Mhm.
net 300,000,
Oh,
bedrooms,
wow. Mhm.
only in Wilayah Persekutuan. So either you work or you live in KL, you can apply for these properties. And then
Mhm.
for the Selangor version, is of course Rumah Selangorku.
Right.
Tapi Rumah Selangorku dia tak pakai agent, so you have to go online and
A website,
register.
right?
You have to
Right.
for them to contact you and things like that.
Mm.
But the properties are really nice. It really depends on the developer. So at the back of my house, there's a few rumah sangokus, and they're really
Mhm.
pretty.
Mhm.
Sizes are slightly smaller than my property, but very nice, cantik, cantik. So these projects exist, but it's difficult to purchase via agents because they don't use agents most of the time.
Of
Rumah
course.
WIP probably is rumah sangoku tak lah. Besides that, you can buy subsale properties. You can look at an area that you're keen on, something that's below 350, 300.
Mm.
Um, if it's low cost, dia ada syarat-syarat dia. So if
Okay.
it's low cost, this needs to be your first property. Gaji you tak boleh lebih certain amount. You cannot
Mm.
sell for so and so years. Similar to rumah sangoku and rumah WIP lah.
Mm.
There will be a
Mm.
moratorium put on the property. And if you have a problem with the 10% down payment for first time home buyers, if gaji you is less than 5,000, you can ask for the scheme pinjaman rumah pertama from
Mm.
a bank. I don't know which banks are still doing this, but I think Maybank still does this. And you can ask
Mhm.
for 100% loan so that
Okay.
you don't have to pay for the 10% down payment. But the property
Mm.
needs to be 500,000 ringgit and below, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, and
Okay.
then ada syarat-syarat dia lah, like gaji you tak boleh lebih 5,000 ke something like that.
Mm.
But there are these options. So either you get the negotiator to assist you, or if you
Mhm.
have a banker friend, you can ask your banker friends like, okay, what do I do? Mm.
Okay. Okay. I think that was really helpful. And this is another question, but I think it's more on an investment side. So the question is, should I buy a house or continue to rent and invest the money in products like real estate investment trusts?
Oh, okay. REITs are. I asked a friend the other day about REITs. I guess REITs and real estate investment is, so if you buy a house, you can leverage on the bank loan for your investment. But if
Mm.
you want to buy REITs, you need to use your own money. So I
Mm.
guess it's dependent on how much you want to invest, how much
Mm.
returns you want. Recently, I asked a friend about REITs because I was inclined to do that as well, and he
Mm.
said at the moment, because of the market and the industry, not a lot are really doing well.
Okay.
So you probably want to wait it out a bit. Because like if you invest in a, let's say you want to invest in like a mall, for example, no one's really going to malls at the moment. Tenants are not paying, so you probably don't get the returns that you want. But yeah, I think you for both there's an equal amount of studying and research that you need to do. um I guess REITs are less, you don't really have to think about like tenant, you don't have to
Yeah.
think about painting your unit. It's easier. Just figure out the timeline where you when you want to invest it in lah. Mm.
Plus, I mean, you don't have like a minimum amount, right? You can invest
Mm,
however amount that you want to
mm.
put in. You don't really have to have like a amount in your bank that is worth a house before you actually start investing in REITs.
Yes, correct.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
And when it comes to loans, right? Are there combined loan options to
Yep,
purchase a house?
yep,
Okay.
definitely. So
Mm-hmm.
usually what couples do is they join loan if they want to definitely like purchase a house that's, let's say, 1% tak cukup, right? Um, and let's say 1% punya gaji can only buy 300,000. Excuse me. And you wanna buy a property that's closer to work, so city, PJ, something like that. And those are usually 500,000, 600,000. So you definitely want a joint loan with your partner for that. Hold on.
Okay. No worries.
Excuse me. So when joining loan, so
Mm-hmm.
each person in Malaysia, each person has two quota 90% loan. So
Okay.
this is, let's say this is me and this is Tammy. Okay.
Okay.
So Tammy and I both want a joint loan for this property because we really think it's a good location and investment, and um, it's just something that we like. So
Okay.
we joined loan for the first one. So my first quota and your first quota is gone for one property.
Okay.
So
Wait,
we
no,
still have
50% of. I mean, because
90% loan for the property itself because 10% we put down payment, right?
right,
So
right.
first and second is 90%. Your third property is already 70%. So you have to put a
Oh.
30% down payment. So
Mm-mm.
if you're a couple that's thinking of investing a lot in property, you may want to look at these options because between two people you can buy four properties that are 90% loan,
Right.
right? So if you're
Yeah.
joining the loan on the first house, you only have two more left.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Or in the future, you join loan again, so you can only buy two properties with 90% loan.
Right.
So
Right.
it depends on your long-term plan. For
Mm.
me, I dari dulu lagi, I told myself I need to exhaust the 90%
Mm.
each. So we both bought separately. But of course, not everyone wants to invest in property. Some people want to buy houses because they want to live comfortably. So first
Mm.
house joint loan, second house also joint loan, and then
Mm.
if you want to buy your third house, you just let go of either one, and then you can get your 90% loan back lah, right?
Okay.
So it's just a matter of what you can afford, you
Mm.
know, and what's your future planning for property investment.
Okay. No, I'm just asking it because you gave an example of me and you combining. So does it have to have like the combined loan, right? The person who's applying for the combined loan, do they have to have a specific relationship, or it could be anybody? Like I could just, hey, let's invest in a property. Do you
Can
want to have a combined loan with me? Oh,
can
that's possible. Okay.
Yeah. So the only thing that's not possible, which I learned, I don't know if this is general, but if a couple purchases a home, if they're
Mm.
Muslim and non-Muslim, they won't allow it.
Oh, okay.
But if you're Muslim and Muslim, or non-Muslim and non-Muslim, and you're purchasing a property, like they don't care because they're like, oh, maybe one day you'll get married. So it's, I don't know, it's a bit weird. But between friends, boleh pula. So like I asked UOB the other day. They said four people can join loan, but they prefer if three people or less lah.
Okay,
So
so
like
for people
property
combined
buddies
loan,
ke,
that would
adik
mean everybody's 190% loan quota will be exhausted, right?
yes.
Okay.
Mm,
Okay.
correct. Yeah. So it depends on the banks as well, lah, what their syarat-syarat is.
Mm. Okay. Right. I think I've asked all the questions that I want to know about.
Okay.
And I also some of the questions that came to me were also covered in the question
Mm,
that I've asked before. So these were the three questions that was separate and had nothing to do with what I wanted to ask. So I think we can wrap it up.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Natasha, for spending your evening with us. It's
No
been
problem.
four
An
seconds,
hour.
2 seconds left to be an hour. But yeah, I think it was perfect. I think it's like I got like some sort of a crash course now on what I need to do next if I want to purchase a house. That's amazing. So for those of you who are still watching and if you want to know more about
Mm.
property buying and things like that, please follow Natasha on Marie Joao Kondo on Instagram. It's literally your work profile, right, Natasha?
Yep. Yep. It
Yeah, just
is.
sharing tidbits about property buying and investments and things like that.
Yeah, basically everything that we talked about, I already
Mhm.
have an IGTV
Mm.
covering these topics. So just scroll back to my videos and you can find all these in depth.
Right. Okay, that's great. So thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Tammy.
See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, for watching, for your questions as well. So do like and subscribe to BK Resources YouTube channel. And if YouTube videos are not your thing, you can also find all the episodes on Spotify. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Till then, stay safe, have a good weekend, and good night.